Today we'll be doing grade 12 mathematics paper on November 2016. We'll actually take you to corrections. I'll actually do corrections of this paper. So 1.11, we are asked to solve for x here. So this is super easy. X equals 0 or x equals positive 7. So this is your answer. It's 1. Since the mark allocation is 2, this is how they mark it. Then all the time when you see corrected 2 decimal places, this is the hint. They're telling you that you must use what? Quadratic formula. That's very important, and make sure that you work with a quadratic equation that is in its standard form. I hope you understand that. That's very important. Therefore, you will do what? You will substitute your equations, or a, b, and c, on this formula. Plus or minus square root, the value of b is negative 6 squared minus 4, the value of a is 1, then the value of c is positive 2 all over 2 into the value of a, which is 1. Then x equal to, they said correct to 2 decimal places, therefore use your calculator as I'm using mine right now. So make sure, guys, that you master this question. Question 1 is where you must actually collect a lot of marks or more marks. Okay, and please like the video and comment on the video, share it, and hit on the notification bell so that you can be notified when we upload new lessons or new question papers. So 5.65 or x equal to let me try to use my calculator over here, or 0 is 0.35. These are our answers. Then let's try to move on. 1.13, these are sets. Whenever you see a square root under solve for x or under question 1, you must know that you are dealing with sets. One answer of x must be you must reject one answer, or one answer must be the correct answer that will give you the left hand side when you actually try to substitute it on the original equation. So one answer must be rejected, one answer must be correct, but that's not always the case. Sometimes both the answers can be positive. So here you must actually make sure that the square root is equal to whatever thing. It must not be square root plus or minus. Then whatever number, you must actually transpose it to the right so that it can be whatever that is inside the square root equal to whatever that will be on the right hand side. Therefore, you must actually eliminate the square root by squaring both sides. I hope that makes sense. So you must eliminate that square root by exponent 2. I hope that makes sense, guys. So whenever you see a square root, you must know that we are dealing with sets. These are sets. Therefore, for us to eliminate the square root, you put what? Exponent 2 in both sides. Then we are left with x minus 1 equal to, you simplify this, is x minus 2x, x squared minus 2x plus 1. Therefore, group the like terms, x squared minus 2x minus x plus 1, and you transpose the 1, it will be positive on the right. Therefore, plus 1. 0 equal to x squared minus 3x plus 2. Then you solve for x. I normally tell my learners that whenever you do not know actually how to find critical values, use what? Use the quadratic formula. Then if the quadratic formula gives you a positive answer, it means that when you substitute that answer on these brackets, you make it to be negative. If it was negative, you make it to be positive. Therefore, I got positive 2, then I made x to be negative 1 inside the bracket in negative 2. Therefore, x equals 2 or x equals 1. I solved for these 4x. Then make sure that you do this always when you're dealing with sets, because one answer can be incorrect and one answer can be correct. So both of these answers are correct, so there's no need for you to reject one. I hope you understand that. I hope it makes sense, guys. So 1.14, these are exponents. And as you can see from that question, that we're having same base, but the problem, they are subtracted. meaning you must expand them. You must expand these exponents that we're having on the left. But if it was they were separated by times, that's when we're going to do it to add the exponents and take one base. But now we're going to do it, we are expanding them as I'm doing here. Okay, therefore the common factor is 3 to the power x. Therefore 27 minus 9 it's which is 3 cubed minus 3 squared equals 486. Therefore 3 to the power x equal to 27 minus 9. I think that's 18. That's 18 equal to 486. Therefore you can divide both sides by 18 to make 3 to the power x the subject of the equation. Therefore 3 to the power x equal to, what is 486 divided by 18? It will be 27. Therefore you can actually use your calculator to change 27. It will be 3 cubed, as you know. Then you can drop the exponents, x equals 3. Then you can actually take this answer and substitute it on the original equation to check if you will get 486. I hope that makes sense. Very, very important, good people. I think we can move on. All right, let's try to move on and do question 1.2. So 1.2, it's f of x. As you can see that this is the parabola. F of x equals x squared plus 3x minus 4. That's 1.2. Therefore, they want us to solve for x if f of x equals 0. Meaning, where there's f of x, we're going to substitute what? We're going to substitute 0, as you can see. Therefore, let's try to do it. F of x equal to x squared. X squared, sorry, it's not x cubed. This is not a cubic function, it's a parabolic function. Therefore, x squared plus 3x minus 4. Then they said f of x is 0, meaning where there's f of x, we're going to substitute 0. It's like we're solving for x-intercepts in a way. So x and x here, therefore you use your calculator, you use the quadratic formula. If it gives you positive answer, you're going to substitute it inside the bracket as a negative. If it gives you a positive, you're going to substitute it as a negative. I'm not sure if you guys understand that. So it gave me positive 1, then I substituted it as negative 1. Then here it gave me a negative 4, and I substituted it on the brackets as as positive 4. Therefore, it's all for x. I hope that makes sense. So these are the x values that we are required to solve. Then 1.22, they want us to solve for x if f of x is less than 0. These are the same answers, it's just that this is inequality. I hope it makes sense. So x less than 1 or x less than negative 4. Therefore, I can actually represent my answers graphically, since you know that these are inequalities. You can draw something like a parabola, and the negative answer or the negative number or the negative x value comes to the left here. It will be negative 4 and the positive 1 over here. Therefore, you're not going to shade, you're just going to put on circles on those digits there, as I'm doing now. You cannot shade. Why? Because we do not have an equal sign. But if we had an equal sign like this, we're going to do what? We're going to shade. But now we cannot shade because we do not have equal sign in our inequality symbols. I hope you understand that. Then we can actually write this in another form. We can say x is the element of the negative number on the left, which is negative 4, is to positive 1. You are done. I hope it makes sense. Very, very important. But if you are given something like this, we're going to use square brackets. Why? Because of the equal sign. I hope you can see the difference. Then now they want us to determine the values of x for which the first derivative is greater than or equal to 0. I hope it makes sense. If you can remember calculus where the graph increases or where it is equal to 0. So you're going to derive the graph of f. It will be f of f prime x greater than or equal to 0. Then you're going to derive, or you're going to find the derivative or the gradient of f, meaning it's going to be 2x squared plus 3x greater than or equal to 0. Then you solve for x. Therefore x is greater than or equal to negative 2 over 3. Then this becomes our answer. So this is how you solve this thing, guys. Okay, let's try to do 1.3, solve for x and y simultaneously. So we'll actually have x equals to y as our first equation, and x squared minus 5xy equal to negative 24 is our second equation. But now you can see that we do have the equation, the subject of the equation, subject of the formula, which is x. Therefore substitute equation 1 into equation 2, meaning that where there is x, we're going to substitute 2y. Therefore 2y squared minus 5y into 2y equal to negative 24. Therefore here we're going to have 4y squared minus 10y squared equal to negative 24. Therefore 4y minus 10y squared, actually these are like terms, we can actually have an answer. The difference of 4 and negative 10 is negative 6y squared equal minus 24, actually plus 24 equals 0. Then you can divide both sides by negative 6. We have y squared minus 4. This will be minus 4. It is minus 4 equals 0. Therefore this difference of 2 squares, y plus 2, y minus 2 equals 0. Therefore y equal to negative 2 or y equal to positive 2. Therefore you can substitute these y values on the first equation. As you can see that equation 1 is let's remind ourselves, equation 1 is x equals 2y, meaning x equals 2 into negative 2, then the answer is going to be negative 4, and x equal to 2 into positive 2, then our answer will be positive 4. So we have solved x and y simultaneously. So I hope it makes sense. So you can take those x values and substitute them on the original graph, the original equations, to see if your answers are correct. So when it comes to algebra, take those values of x or y and substitute them on your equations to see if the right hand side will be equal to the right hand side. That's what you do in order for you to check if you're correct. So arithmetic sequence, what we know about arithmetic sequence is that it has a common difference. That's very, very important. I hope you understand that. You must not differentiate the sequences or the patterns. So they want us to determine the fourth term of the sequence, term number 4. We have 5 is term number 1, 1 is term number 2, negative 3 is term number 3. Therefore 5 and 1 and negative 3. Let's check the difference here. It's negative 4 and negative 3 minus 1 is going to be negative 4. It's going to be negative 4. Then we know that here we also have negative 4, meaning that the third term will be the fourth term will be negative what? Negative 7. I hope that makes sense. by saying -3, -4, you're going to have what? -7. But there's another way that you can actually use in order for you to find the T4 or term number 4. Let me just show you that way, or how you're going to do that. I hope it makes sense. So that one I just erase here. It is the first method, and there is a second method that you can really use. Okay, let me show you this way. As you can see that T1 is 5, T1 is 5, 2.1. So T1 is 5, T2 is 1, T3 is -3. And we do have the value of A and the value of D. Therefore, T4 is going to be A plus 3D. I hope you remember this thing. Therefore, equals T4. A plus 3D equals T4. A equals 5 plus 3. D equals -4. This is equal to T4. Therefore, 5 minus 12. 5 minus 12 is going to get the same negative what? -7. So this is how you actually solve for T4. Then calculate the number of terms in the sequence, meaning you must first find the general term. Since this is an arithmetic sequence, we do know the value of A, the first term, which is 5 plus n minus 1 into -4, the value of D. Therefore, Tn equals 5 minus 4n plus 4. Therefore, Tn equals minus 4n plus 9. Then you can actually take the last term here, since it is -87, and substitute it where there's Cn to solve for n. I hope that makes sense. Therefore, -87 equals -4n plus 9. -87 minus 9 is going to be -96. Let me try to confirm that using my calculator. Yes, it's -96 equal to -4n. Then divide both sides by -4. Then you're going to get n as -96 over -4. It's going to be positive 24. So in this sequence, we have 24 terms. So this is how you solve this, meaning in this finite arithmetic sequence, there are 24 terms. The number of terms here we're having 24. Yes, so just actually confirming using my calculator if -96 over -4 is 24. Therefore, what you can do now, they want us to calculate the sum of all the negative numbers in the sequence, only the negative numbers. Okay, let me try to write this sequence here so you can see what I'm going to explain. We have 5, 1, -3, and we have these dots as written there. Then we have -83 and -87 is the last term. Then, as you can see, we have two numbers that are positive. Then from -3 to the last term, all these numbers are negative, and the total number here, we do have what? We do have the 24, meaning 24 minus those two terms that are positive. We'll have what? Negative. We'll have 24 minus 2 we're going to have what? 22. This 22, it is the number of all negative numbers in this series, in this sequence. Therefore, we can use this formula Sn equals n over 2, sorry, it's n over 2 square brackets a plus the last term, which is L. Therefore, we know n, which is 22. Therefore, S22 equal to n, which is 22 over 2 into a, which is -3 here, since this is the first term of the negative values. -3 plus the last term, which is -87. Then you show your substitution. Then therefore you use your calculator. It will give you -990. So it's going to be -990. Let me try to write it somewhere here so that it can be seen, negative 990 on the white background. Or you can use the other formula of Sn, the one that it's Sn. You'll be given this thing actually in the formula sheet. You can still use this formula, it will give us the same answer, negative 990. I hope you understood how we got that 22. All these numbers after negative 3 up to the last term, they are all negative. Then since we know that the number of terms in the series, the sequence, are 24, if we're going to say 24 minus these two positive terms, then we'll have 22 as the number of all negative terms in the series. I hope that makes sense. Then I use that formula, or you can use the second formula for calculating the sum of 22 terms. Therefore 2a plus n minus 1d close bracket. Therefore you can use this formula, it will give you same answers, or negative 990. I hope it makes sense. Okay, so this is how you're solving it, guys. So let's do the last one, 2.4. All right, 2.4. We have these values as our sequence. In this, we know that negative 4187, this is the last term of this sequence. Then they want us to determine the number of terms in the sequence that will be exactly divisible by positive 5, meaning we want all the numbers that are divisible by 5. I hope that makes sense. So the first thing that we're going to do now, we're going to write our sequence fresh, but we'll show the numbers that are divisible by 5, or the last value that is divisible by 5. Okay, we know that the common difference is negative 4, but let me just show you this. So 5, 1, we have negative 3, then we have negative 7, then we put the dots showing that the sequence is continuing, then we have negative 4, 1, 7, 5, knowing that the common difference is negative 4. So you're going to do everything until you find you actually reach negative 4175, then negative 4179, and negative 4183, and negative 4187. That is the last term. And if you can just look at this, you know that the value of, the first term there, it's known as a, right? And a is divisible by 5. And the last term, these ones are not divisible by 5, but negative 4175, it is divisible by 5, meaning this is the last term of the values in this sequence that are divisible by 5. I hope that makes sense. Therefore, they want now the numbers that will be exactly divisible by 5. We do have a, and we do have what? The last term. I hope that makes sense. From negative 4187, you go back, you get what? Negative 4175. Therefore, you can use this formula. First, you can find the general term. Now, you know that a is the first term, n minus 1. Then what is d? It's negative 4. Remember, therefore, the value of tn now is going to be, 5 minus 4n plus 4. Therefore, tn equal to negative 4n plus 9. So this is our tn. But now we didn't actually, we are not asked to calculate cn, but it will help us somehow. Just look at this. Now we do have a as our first term, which is 5, and we have the last term is negative 4175. Therefore, we will take that negative 4175 and substitute it where there's cn to know the number of terms that are divisible by 5. I hope that makes sense. So we'll say negative 4175 equal to negative 4n plus 9. Therefore, we solve for n by transposing 9 to the left. Therefore, it will be negative 4175 minus 9. Then let me just try to use my calculator here, but I hope you understand this. Now, negative 4175 minus 9. I'm just doing it manually. I don't have my calculator here, but let me just try to get the calculator using my phone. Okay, negative
4184 equal to negative 4n. Therefore, you can divide both sides by negative 4n, then divide both sides by negative 4n. Okay, n becomes positive 1046. Negative 1046. But you are not done here. What you're going to do, you're going to say n plus 1, n minus 1 over 5 plus 1. You can actually ask your teacher and he or she will explain this to you. So what is n? It's that 1046 over, minus 1 over 5 plus 1. Why did you say 1046 minus 1? Because when you say 1046 minus 1, it will be what? 10 4 5 4 5 is over 5 plus 1, then it will give us what? 210, meaning that these values that are, because they said determine the number of terms that are divisible by 5, or that will be exactly divisible by 5. So we have what? 210. So this is how you solve this question. I hope it makes sense. We said 1046 minus 1 because we will get what? 1045, that will be divisible by 5. I hope that it makes sense. Now let's do question 3. Question 3, they're saying that the first 4 terms of a quadratic number pattern are, we have negative 1, x3, x plus 8. Then they want us to do what? They want us to calculate the value or values of x. We're going to write the pattern as it is. Remember, it's quadratic. You do everything that you know when they tell you about what the quadratic formula. Not the quadratic formula, but the quadratic pattern, sorry. Okay, we're going to look first for the first difference. So it's going to be x minus 1. It will be x plus 2 because it will be x minus 1. 3 minus x. Therefore here x plus 8 minus 3 is going to be x plus 5. I'm going to write it right here, x plus 5. Therefore you can actually solve the second difference. As you know, it will be let me just to remove this or wipe it. We have 3 minus x minus into x plus 1. Therefore we're going to have 3 minus into minus x minus 1. Therefore 3 into 3 minus 2x minus 1. Therefore minus 2x plus 2 minus 2x plus 2. Then we're going to say x plus 5 minus 3 minus x. Therefore x plus 5 minus 3 plus x. Then x plus x, we're going to have 2x. 5 minus 3 is 2. Therefore here we have 2x plus 2. And what we know now about the common difference, the second difference, is that the second difference must be common, meaning that it must be equal. Therefore we can equate these two. Equal to 2x plus 2. Therefore we solve for x. I hope you understand this. We have 2a and we have 2a here, meaning these two must be equal. That's why we equated them. I hope it makes sense. That's very, very important, guys, for you to know. Okay, let's just solve for x here. Then we're going to have negative 2x minus 2x equal to 2 minus 2. I hope it makes sense. It will be 0. Therefore, x equals 0. Why? Because we'll say negative 4x divide by negative 4 and divide both sides by negative 4. We're going to have what? X as 0. I hope you understand that. So this is your 4 marks. So this is how you do this question. You must understand what quadratic pattern is and how it works. I hope that makes sense. And please do like the video. All right. Now let's try to do 3.12. Okay, they're saying that if x equals 0 and determine the position, remember the position is n, of the first term in the quadratic pattern, and the first term of the quadratic pattern is not just a, but it is a plus b plus c, remember. And of the quadratic pattern, for which the sum is what? Is the addition, that's Sn, of the first n differences will be greater than 250. So it's very important for you to first understand that English that's written there, right? So that you can actually combine everything that you know and everything that you understand, only if whatever that you're understanding is correct, is the correct thing. So this is the quadratic pattern we are having. So it will be negative 1 plus 0, then you do what? You find the difference. So it is 1, and 3 minus 0, it's 3, 8 minus 3, it's 5. Therefore, we're going to use this first difference to find its general term. I hope that makes sense. If you can just read the question or what's written there. So we have 2 here as the difference. Therefore, we're going to use what? Sn equal to n over 2 into 2a plus a minus 1 d close bracket. Okay, therefore Sn, what is n? N, we're going to use n over 2 into 2. Then the first term here, we know it's a plus n minus 1. Then we say d, which is 2, right? Therefore, Sn becomes n over 2, open bracket, 2 plus 2n minus 2, square bracket. Therefore, Sn becomes n over 2. Then these ones are going to cancel out. We are left with 2n. Therefore, 2 and 2, they cancel out. Then we are left with n squared as the sum of the first differences. I hope it makes sense. Then what we're going to do now, we're going to use that Sn there, as we are actually told that it will be greater than the 250. Let me just try to wipe everything so that we see what I'm talking about. Okay, if x equals 0 and they want us to determine the position of the first term in the quadratic pattern, which will be the first differences will be actually greater than 250, meaning where there's n, we're going to put what? 250. So n 250 is greater than n squared. No, it can't be greater than n squared. So this sum of the first differences must be greater than this 250, meaning it must, I'm not sure if you understand this, meaning it must be Sn greater than the 250, meaning n squared greater than 250, if you can actually understand the statement what's written in 3.1.2. I hope that makes sense. So meaning 250 is less than n squared, or n squared is greater than the 250. Then you solve for n here. I hope it makes sense. When you solve for n, square root both sides, then you're going to have your n as what? Let me try to use my calculator right here. So n will be actually less than 15.8. Yes, or you can actually write it like this: n is greater than 15.8. I hope this makes sense. Therefore, since we know that n is greater than 15.8, we can actually round it off and saying that n equals what? Equals 16. N equals 16. So the sum of the 16 first terms, so the first, or the sum of the 16 first differences, will be greater than 250. The sum of the 16 first differences will be greater than 250. Therefore, n equals what? Equals 17. So this is our answer. This is our answer. It's all about understanding what they want you to do up here, as we can see our statement, or what's written on our statement. That's very, very important, guys. You must understand what's written on the statement before you can try to attempt a question. So that's the very important thing. Let's try to look at this question right here. They say rectangles of width 1 centimeters. So this is the width of this rectangle. This is the width. This is the width, and this is the width here. It's 1 centimeters. Are drawn from the edge of a sheet of paper that is 30 centimeters. As you can see, B to C it's 30, or A to D it's 30. Then let's continue. Such that there is 1 centimeter gap. There is what? 1 centimeter gap, as you can see here between the gray rectangles. There's 1 centimeter gap. All right, between one rectangle and the next. Therefore, the length of the first rectangle is 21 centimeters. So the length of the first is 21 centimeters. As you can see, the length of DC, or the first rectangle, is 26, meaning that will be our A. I'm not sure if you understand that. And the length of each successive rectangle is 85% of the length of the previous rectangle. And there are rectangles drawn along the entire length of AD. So the length of the first rectangle is 21 centimeter. Then they say the length of the previous rectangle until there are rectangles drawn along the entire length. But I think the most important thing before you can actually do this is to understand, they're saying that the length of the first rectangle is 21 centimeters, as you can see, and the length of each successive rectangle is 85% of the length of the previous rectangle. That's very important, meaning that the second gray rectangle after the 21 centimeter rectangle, it means that the second one, it is 85% of the first or of the previous rectangle. I hope that makes sense. So it's very important for you to understand this. So they want us to calculate the length of the 20th rectangle, meaning that before we can actually find the 20th rectangle, meaning that we must find first the Tn. Therefore, on that Tn, we substitute what? Where there's n, we're going to substitute 10, so that we can find the length of the 10th or 20th rectangle. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to find first what? The sequence or the series. So it will be 21, remember it is the first one as we are told, plus 21, 0.85. We'll divide that percentage by 100, then we'll get what? 0.85. Therefore, plus 21, 0.85. Let me try to write 0.85 squared here. Remember, that's the third time. If you watched our video when we were teaching what is this number pairs in grade 11, this is very, very important. Now, they said that the length of the first rectangle is 21. Therefore, then the following rectangle gives us what? The successive 80% of the previous rectangle. I hope you understood that. So when you divide term 2 and term 3, you're going to get a common ratio, meaning we can use a geometric sequence. Therefore, the value of A is 21, then R is 0.85, as you can see, n minus 1. Therefore, where there's n, you can substitute that value or that 10. Remember, 21, 0.85, then 10 minus 1. Then our answer here, you just punch your calculator. You're going to get, let me just try to use mine here so that we have correct answers. Okay, let me just punch my calculator right here. Then we're going to get 4.86 centimeters. So this is the length of the 10th rectangle. I hope that makes sense. So this is the length of the rectangle DC, meaning the length, the 10th rectangle, maybe it's somewhere here having what? The length of 4.86 centimeters. So I hope it makes sense. It's all about understanding that statement or what's written there. That English is very important for you to know how to interpret it. I hope that makes sense, guys. So this is how you solve for the 10th rectangle, or the length of the 10th rectangle. That's why we said centimeters. Now, what they want us to calculate in 3.22, they want us to calculate the percentage of the paper that is colored gray. The paper that is colored gray. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do here, you see 3.22, you can see the page ABCD, or the paper ABCD. It has white background or white spaces. Therefore, we only want the percentage of the paper that is colored gray, and we are given the percentage there. Let's see that percentage, how it's going to help us. But we are not just actually calculating the percentage of the white spaces or the white paper, but the gray paper. I hope that makes sense. So let's see how we're going to calculate it. We know that this series or whatever that's going on here, we're having what? Geometric series. As we were doing 3.21, we found that it is the arithmetic sequence, and arithmetic sequence, the geometric series is the continuation of the arithmetic sequence. I hope that makes sense. Therefore, we're going to use Sn equal to A1 minus Rn over 1 minus r. Why? Because when we combine these things, they form what? A geometric series. I hope that makes sense. Okay, therefore we do have the value of A, as we know. We do have the value of A. Let me just show it. And we do have the value of R. Then what about the value of N? What I did, I divided that 30 by 2, then it gave us what? 15. Therefore N, it will be 15. Therefore we'll be calculating the sum of 15 terms, 15 rectangles, meaning that when we divide it, it gives us what? It gives us the page, the gray page, to be 15. It to be have the length of 15. I hope it makes sense. So 21 into 1 minus, what is the value of R? We have 0.85, right? Then the value of N, we have 15, close bracket, over 1 minus 0.85. Here we're calculating the sum of the length of the gray page, which is 15. As 15 is going to be 127.77. I hope that makes sense. Then what is it that we're going to do now? We're going to actually calculate the area of the rectangle. Remember, you were taught this in grade 7. The area of a of a rectangle. Length times breadth, or L times B. Therefore, we do have the length, which is 30 here, as we are told in our statement. Then we do have B here, which is DC. Length is 30 and B is 21. Therefore, we're going to multiply these two, then they will give us the area of the rectangle. So area of the rectangle, of the entire rectangle, remember 30 times 21. It's going to give us 630. This is the area. Therefore, for us to calculate the percentage, what we're going to do, we're going to write, they want us to calculate what the percentage, we're going to take what the SN and divide it by the area. We're going to divide it by the area and multiply it by 100 so that we can get what? The percentage of the paper that is colored gray. Therefore, percentage equals SN over the area multiply by 100. Therefore, what is SN? It's 127.77 over the area, which is 630 times 100. Therefore, what is the percentage? We're going to have, let me use my calculator, it's 20.28%. So this is our answer. This is our answer. Yeah, it was a bit tricky question, but I hope you are understanding this. I hope you understand this. So all the time when you deal with number pattern, make sure that you're not only focusing on those ones that are easy. Focus also in these ones, because this is how you will find them. Let's try to do this one. I think we'll end here. I'm tired. H of x equals a to the power x, and we know that they told us that a is greater than 0, and that is an exponential function. Then r is the y-intercept of h. As you can see, here's r here. Then they say that p and q, where's q, here's q, lie on h. I hope that makes sense. Or you see that it's not something that I can actually explain or must explain. It's something straightforward that they've written on the statement. Then 4.1, they're saying that they write down the equations. The equation or the asymptote of h. For an example, let's say we were given something like this. Then this q would be our horizontal asymptote. So since we do not have the value of q there, it means that the q is 0. Therefore, y equals 0. That's what the equation of the asymptote. Then they want us to determine the coordinates of r. Remember, r, we are told that r here is what? Is the y-intercept, since it's what? It's on the y-axis of the Cartesian plane. Therefore, what do we know about that is that 0 is to y. These are the coordinates of r, but we must actually take this r here and substitute it on the graph of h to find the y corresponding value. So this is our original graph. Then let's take that point and substitute it on the graph of h. Therefore, y becomes positive 1. That makes what? The coordinates of r to be 0 and 1. I hope it makes sense. Then 4.3, they want us to calculate the value of a. They want us to calculate the value of a. So how are we going to do that? We're going to take the point P, because it lies on h. We're going to take that point and substitute it on the graph of h. Therefore, 4.3. Therefore, this is our graph that we are having as h of x. Right? We're going to take that point and substitute on the graph of h to find the value of a. Therefore, h of x equal to a to the power x. Then for the value of y is 9 equal to a to the power 2. Therefore, we square root both sides to eliminate that 2, right? Plus or minus square root 9. Then our answer will be plus or minus 3 equals a. But on our statement, we are told that a right here, as you can see, that a must be positive. Therefore, we'll take the positive 3 as our a. This is our answer. I hope it makes a lot of sense. So this is how you solve this question. Therefore, 4.4. Let's see 4.4. 4.4, they say D is a point such that dq is parallel to y-axis and dp is parallel to x-axis. Calculate the length of dp. Where is this dp? Okay, here's p here, and they want us to calculate the length of dp, the distance. Okay,
this is D and this is P. Therefore, we can say for us to find DP, since they told us that DP is parallel to DQ, we can say DP, we take one x value of P and subtract it to that x value of Q. Then that will be our length of DP. I hope that makes sense. But I will actually try to do it because it's 4 marks and show you how to do it. Therefore, DP equal to the x value of P and the x value of Q. We're subtracting them, 2 minus B. It will be the length of DP. I hope it makes sense. Therefore, let's continue with our calculation so that we can show. This is the graph of Y, or the graph of H as Y equals 3 to the power X. Therefore, what we're going to do now, what we're going to do is that we are going to substitute point Q on the graph of Y to the power B. Then we solve for B. Okay, let me show you so that we can substitute it up there on what is written. DP equals 2 minus B. Therefore, 3 into negative 4, into the exponent negative 4, then you drop the exponents here. 4 equals B. Therefore, where there's a B, DP, you substitute what? Where there's B, you substitute negative 4, the value of B. Therefore, what you're going to do, maybe some are wondering why DP equals 2 minus 4. These are, or this is the length of DP. So it will be DP minus 4 minus into negative 4 is going to give us 6 units. Okay, let me try to explain this. For us to find the length of DP, we say 2 minus the value or the x value of what? Of Q. So this is the length, right? For us to find that length, we say 2 minus this Q here. The x value of Q. It will give us what? The length of DP. I hope it makes sense, guys. So this is how you're solving this. I would usually do 4.5, but please try it. Try it. What you're going to do, you're going to say h of x plus 2 equals negative k, then you continue there. Thank you.